conference began yesterday with spiritual leaders, scholars, academics, they're all coming and giving their perspective on this conference's theme. We have 5 sessions already devoted to different technical sessions, as you know. And one thing that I heard in the previous sessions, and many of the spiritual leaders also spoke about it, that if real peace and harmony is to be achieved, the roots or the seeds of this must be sown somewhere in the young children in their schools. I have a different opinion on this, but I'll reserve my opinion for this because I will also be playing a different role now for this session. And if I, as all of you know, so if I get time and if I get opportunities, certainly I'll say what exactly I wanted to say. But realizing that such a need will arise in a conference like this, we have one session devoted to this, and that session is now Moral and Innovative Leadership for Peace and Harmony. And this session could not have been led and spoken to with better people than what we have right now. Some of the finest. Okay, thank you, sir. Some of the finest school leaders are here, and they will give their perspective as to what they are doing to develop leadership. And believe me, when we talk of leadership, we only talk of the leadership which is the first word citizenship for the 21st century word. For us, leadership is nothing else. That those children are imbued with the skills and competencies, they are imbued with the values, they are imbued with the multiculturalism, they are imbued with the philosophy of oneness and one word. This is what we are doing. How successfully we are doing, probably it is not up to us to evaluate ourselves, but at least you will have a glimpse of the individual Herculean efforts that are being made in some of the schools, some of the colleges. And therefore, I will not take more time. I will request Chairperson, National Progressive Schools Conference and Principal of Springdale School, Pusa Road, Mrs. Amita Mullavatal, to come and take her seat in the dais, please. Give her a big hand. I will also request Mr. L.B. Sehgal. He is the ex-chairman of the National Progressive Schools Conference and now principal of Bal Bharatiya School, Gangaram Hospital Road, a prolific leader. Give him a big hand, please. We also have with us another very renowned school leader, Dr. Anju Tandon, who is heading the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan School in Delhi. Please come and take your seat. 2 of our panelists are awaited, but we will not wait for them to begin the session. As they come, they can join us. This session, I think we have got about an hour or so, and we are not many of us to speak, and therefore they will put their perspective, and I hope that we will be left with some time for you to raise some of the questions also. Thank you very much for your coming here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will straight away request Amita to come and give her perspective.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ashok, it's always such an honor and a privilege when invited by you and the wonderful work that you're doing with the Global Peace Leadership. Ashok to me is a very dear colleague, a wonderful friend and a great support and a marvelous educationist. I would like to give you a big hand, Ashok, for the kind of work that you do and that you draw us in. Thank you very much, Mr. Sehgal, for being with us. Anju, all friends and colleagues together, with your permission, if I may. There are children raised in sorrow beneath the scorched and barren plain. There are children raised beneath the golden sun. There are children of the water and children of the land, and they all cry out in voices raised as one. I want to be, I want to know, I want to see, I want to grow. I want to see what I can give. I want to live, I want to live. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the UN Declaration of Rights for Children. And today they're extremely important because it is the Human Rights Day today. And I think it's absolutely auspicious that today we have Kailash Satyarthi and Malala, who is receiving the Nobel Prizes, essentially for the work that they have done for children. And I think me and all my colleagues sitting here are going to speak with one voice about how we feel about children. I used to be a part of the World Council of Churches in Geneva, which is an interfaith religious body which we go to. And I met a rabbi there. And he said to me, who are you and who am I and who are we together? Essentially, the essence is of interdependence and togetherness. And leadership in schools is about interdependence. I personally, ladies and gentlemen, am a child of war. In the 97-1 Bangladesh action, my father's ship was torpedoed by a Daphne submarine. And he went down with his ship, saving the lives of 64 sailors and 6 officers. And he gave his life jacket to his second in command. And he said that I'm not going to leave my boys behind. And those boys were 16 and 17-year-old. They had just been brought in because of the war from the National Defense Academy. So a leader never leaves people behind. You never forget children. You never let children go. I think that is the essence of emerging leadership of any school. No child left behind. I was 14 years old, and of course, at the time, my father became and is a national hero, probably the only hero the Navy has. He was decorated and there were documentaries made for him. But I was extremely confused because I had heard of deaths which took place because of illness or accidents. But I, as a child of 14, could not understand a death where we were killing each other over land. And that was a great dilemma for me, because it's very difficult to live with your primary parent dead and a medal in your hand. And that was the time when I thought, and it sounds like a cliche, but believe me, I thought that we have to change the minds of young people. And the cliche is that if wars began in the minds of men, then it's in the minds of men we have to find peace. And we're better with schoolrooms where ideas and thoughts evolve. And perhaps it was at the age of 14, without exaggeration, I thought I would become a teacher. And my journey started from 1971, in a sense, of thinking about becoming a teacher. When I think of schools today, and I think, because I'm talking about a whole spectrum of schools, because being the person I was, I must have changed about 18 jobs in all these years that I've worked. But in all the schools that we work today, the essence is we have to move, and we do that in our schoolrooms, from alienation to collaboration. From being isolated to coexistence. From moving from the intimate to the ultimate. From the local to the universal. Even as I speak, I have come from a program where the National Progressive Schools and all the children of 3 of my colleagues sitting here, and many of the principals of the National Progressive Schools, had sent their children to a Human Rights Day. And what were we doing? We were deliberating through jingles, through role plays, through programs, through dramas, through discussions on all things connected with peace. And the interesting thing is, what came out from some students, and they said, let us say no to peace, which comes from the quiet misery of hunger. Let us say no to peace, which comes from the stillness of fear. Let us say no to peace, which comes from the silence of broken spirits. And let us say no to peace, which comes from the unborn hopes of the oppressed. This is not what I said. This is what the students in schools talked about today. Essentially, when you talk about peace, peace is education. There is no other word for it. It's education. Because education brings about articulation. And when you can articulate, and when you can speak, and when you can voice, and when you can make your voice heard, we can bring about change. So schoolrooms essentially are about that voice. Whether they are a 3-year-old's voice, or it's a 16-year-old's voice, it is the voice of young people. Because essentially schools play a role in making young people understand truth, compassion, and justice through the programs that they run. Whether we run programs of global citizenship, or we run programs of environmental understanding, or we run programs of gender justice, schools have to move. And I think that I could compliment NBSC schools and say they definitely move beyond being laboratories of academia to being nurturing nurseries of compassion, justice, preemptive forgiveness. The interesting thing is that students who are in nursery today will be retiring in 2070. And Anju and Ashok and Mr. Sehgal and I are teaching blind because we're teaching to a world that we don't know what it will be. And so what is it that we're teaching? Because content will happen with or without us. It will happen through coaching centers, unfortunately. It will happen through the net. It can happen through online and offline learning. So what is it that schools have to really focus on if they have to live? If schools don't just collapse and disappear? Because if content is going to be the basis of all learning, then we really don't have to be there. So schools today, until 2070 and forever, have to constantly focus on issues that deals with values, peace, acceptance. I hate to use the word intolerance. I prefer to use the word acceptance. I always feel that in the dictionary, the word tolerate should be removed. In Hindi, we say, "Main tumhe bardasht kar raha hu." I'm suffering you. Why should we say that? Because to tolerate is to suffer someone. We have to move beyond that. I remember a couple of years ago, I wrote a script and it said, "मेरे देश का बचपन कुछ लापता है, थोड़ा मुझको थोड़ा तुमको पता है, आओ इसको मिलकर ढूंढे जरा, ये मिल जाएगा ये मुझको पता है, मेरे देश का बचपन कुछ लापता है." It is the journey of this lost childhood that we have to find. 168 million children today are doing cheap labor. Cheap labor. Either they're being trafficked or they are involved with child soldiers. And 200 million adults are without jobs. I heard Kailash say this yesterday when he was speaking, Ashok. And it was ironical that we're in this kind of a situation where if those children were not working, at least those 200 million adults would get a job. And I think as privileged schools, the first thing we have to look at is that every child in school. We cannot make ghettos of rich and poor. We cannot do ghettoization. sometimes that is happening in the right to education. 25% of the poorest of the poor are coming into our schools through lottery systems. But we have to constantly endeavor to ensure that they don't feel that us and them, hum gareeb hai, wo ameer hai. Any of us can change positions anytime, because the world is very strange. And so we have to prevent this ghettoization. So our work is twofold. Not only do we ensure that we bring in children from poorer sections, but we also ensure that they are integrated into our school systems and we create inclusive schools. Inclusive schools that have children who are disabled friendly. Inclusive schools where the rich, the poor, because what I'm seeing today is that there's a tremendous fear factor that has crept in. Globalization has brought in a dilution of boundaries. The rich from the poor, the weak from the strong, the majority from the minority. Everybody is afraid of the other. And we are demonizing the other. In the schools, what do I see? Tu meat khata hai, udhar baith. Just be very clear. Bullying. Bullying is demonizing. We have to ensure in our schools that we have bullying-free schools. This is all about peace education. Peace is not a noun. It is a verb. It is action. Peace is action. And so we have to stop this business of he's leaner, he's fatter, he's thinner, he's quicker, he's fairer, she's... This whole beauty culture, this whole competitiveness that has crept into schoolrooms is taking away the whole understanding of education for peace. Because peace is about competing with yourself. Peace is about you growing and evolving as a holistic human being. Peace is about, again I repeat, not demonizing the other because they look different, they eat different, they dress different, they speak different. I remember, my name is Amita Mullah Vatal. That's my name, right? Nobody knows who I am. I remember I was working in China. I was working in Beijing for many years. I speak Chinese. I speak fluent Chinese. I was working in Beijing for 5 years. And when I stopped working in Beijing and I wanted to work in India and I wanted to come back, I applied for a job as a principal in Bangalore. And immediately they sent a letter to me saying, very good, you're hired. And then they sent me a letter saying, what parish do you belong to? Now the interesting thing is, I'm not going to say I'm a Hindu or a Christian or a Muslim. It doesn't matter. I'm a human being. And that's what we have to bring into our children. They must respect their own and the other's religion. And it is an understanding of spirituality. The understanding that we don't, again, think of the other in negative terms is very important. So schools, we have to look at schools as being centers of conflict resolution. Today, when they become adults, at any point, we have to become masters of conflict resolution. We have to become masters of collaboration, of cooperation. That is leadership. And this can only happen if we somehow, from those textbooks that schools are learning, from all those strange engineering and medical exams that they are giving, from within that, if we can bring within them the understanding of a humane collectiveness. When schools together, all of us, when we work together, we look at the community. The community is the school, and the school, the community. Whether it is through blood donation camps, we bring in peace. So today, anybody who wants blood and doesn't get it in the city of Delhi just has to make one phone call and we get them their blood. Because we've created blood donation camps. You create vocational centers where you become part of the community. You create health checks in the community. So that children realize that there is another perspective. They are not living in a bubble of privilege. The bubble of privilege will burst. Because by 2020, we are the youngest population in the world. And we're going to be there. I don't want to take too much time. I just want to end with a few words. And it is that some of the finest teachers of this world, Buddha, Gandhi, Nanak, Christ, they required no classrooms. They had no blackboards. They had no CCE. They had no chalk. They had no attendances. And who went to them? The blind, the lame, the broken, the depressed, maybe the rich. And how did they teach? They taught with love. They had no Padma Vibhushans. They never got any national awards to be teachers. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, they changed the lives of millions. Love is the essence of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. What prolific views you shared, and literally I think it has shaken us all out of our slumber, particularly after lunch, I would say, because we needed somebody like you to send those currents of love and compassion. And the two things which have come from Anita, and I thought that it would be very pertinent to mention it right away here only. And the narrative of what all that she has said is that we all have to listen to the voices of the children of sorrow. And she has described those children of sorrow in so many words. And the another narrative of what she has said is, and she's very passionate, I know it from my personal experience, that we have to be the nurturing nurseries of love and compassion. I think these are the two defining narratives of what you said, Amita. I really appreciate it. And now I'll request Anju, and now everybody is awake. So please come and share in about 7, 8, 9 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It would be incorrect on my part to begin what I have scripted before conveying my personal thanks to Dr. Ashok Pandey, who has given me this opportunity to be part of this August gathering and share my views. So thank you, Mr. Pandey, for inviting me here. And with your permission, I would scripted some of my thoughts regarding moral and innovative leadership for peace and harmony. I'd like to present that. All human beings intrinsically want to live in peace and harmony and have been making continuous endeavors in this direction from time immemorial. Peace and harmony are truly innate human aspirations. Still, why is it that we witness so much of conflict at the individual level, in the family relations, in the society, warlike situation among the communities, nations, gross degradation of nature by human beings? It's a matter of great concern to all. If we analyze the causes, we find that factors such as intolerance, racial and ethical hatred, extreme violence, growing disparities between the rich and the poor, exploitation of nature beyond the basic needs, insecurities at various levels, are bringing untold misery to the human being as well as to other species on the planet. The rapid degradation of our natural environment in an irreversible manner by thoughtless human activities is posing a serious threat not only to the global peace and harmony, but to the very survival of mankind on Earth. At the personal level also, stress, anxiety, fear, frustration, other such negatives are becoming rampant, snatching the inner peace and harmony of human beings. Is such a situation acceptable to all of us? All of us need to ponder over it seriously and strive hard to find way as leaders. We have adopt effective strategies to ensure peace and harmony in this world. If we ponder over the question of restoring the peace and harmony, it would be clear that though peace and harmony are universal human aspirations, fulfilling them in the real life situation demands adequate culturing of mind, inculcating a holistic perception through proper education, providing correct understanding of the human reality, as well as inherent harmony in the coexistence with nature. Peace education is a process of acquiring values, the knowledge, and developing the attitudes, skills, behavior, or live in harmony with oneself, with others, and with the natural environment. Peace education, we thought as encouraging a commitment to peace, as settled disposition and enhancing the confidence of our students, as an individual agents of peace, as informing students about the consequences of war, social injustice, as informing the students on the value of peaceful and just social structures, as encouraging the students to love the world and imagine a peaceful future, and as caring for students and encouraging them to care for others. Peace education programs around the world have represented a spectrum of focal themes including anti-nuclearism, international understanding, environment responsibilities, communication skills, non-violence, conflict resolution techniques, democracy, and human rights awareness, acceptance of diversity, coexistence, and gender equality, among others. Some have also addressed the spiritual dimensions of the inner harmony, or synthesized a number of foregoing issues into programs on the world citizenship. The areas in peace education on which almost all school and its leaders are making significant contribution are international understanding, environment responsibility, tolerance of diversity, gender equality, democracy education, and human rights education. We at Bharati Vidya Bhavan, a chain of institutions, pan-India, across the globe at London, New York, Kuwait, Mexico City, Lisbon, Durban, Sydney, focus on unleashing excellence and empowering the youth by imparting a sound vision of Indian culture, ethics, values, and spiritual principles, modern mediums through scientific and rational approach. Bharati Vidya Bhavan, founded by Kulpati K. Munshi in 1938. To put it in the words of the founder, the objective for which Bhavan stands are the reintegration of Indian culture in the light of modern knowledge and suit our present day needs, and resuscitation of its fundamental values in their pristine vigor. Bhavan's motto, Ano Bhadra, Kratvo Yantu Vishwatha, or let the noble thoughts come to us from every side. Around 5,000 years ago, when nationalism did not even exist as a concept, the Indian thought of universalism transcended all boundaries. Bhavan's ideals of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, Vasudha, Mother Earth, Ev is like Kutumbakam, a family. The concept originated from Hitopadesha, a collection of Sanskrit fables in prose and verse. The theme is used in the theory presented by Michael McLuhan in the Global Village. At Bhavans, we believe that the whole world is one big family. It is a social philosophy emanates from the spiritual understanding that the whole of humanity is made up of one life energy. We must be concerned for all, and there must be tolerance towards all faith. This can arise only when we accept all religions are but different paths to same goal. The people of the world must work in respective fields towards welfare of the world. The statement is not just about peace and harmony among the societies of the world, but also the truth that somehow the whole world has to live by same rules like a family. The rules are principles of life. We firmly believe that adhering to these principles will foster a great change. At Bhavans, we aim at help the students understand some of the complex processes leading to violence and conflict, and the individual, group, national, international level, and teach the students the way in which these conflicts can be resolved. We begin our day by singing the Sarva Dharma prayer. We encourage students to resolve the conflict in a constructive and a non-violent way. We help our students to develop personal and social skills necessary to live in harmony and to respect the basic human rights. Our students learn to respect the diversities and disparities of culture at the national and international level. Session on cultural intelligence is organized for the student for understanding and respecting diverse culture. Through such sessions, students learn religious tolerance and condemn casteism and communalism. Value education programs, life skill programs are conducted every month. Through these programs, students learn important life skills like critical thinking, empathy, interpersonal skills, and communication skills. These skills help them to resolve their conflicts in a more constructive and peaceful manner. Sessions on One Step Towards Harmony, conducted by experts from Ramakrishna Mission for students. These sessions help the students to understand the concept of gender equality, removal of social, economic disparities, and disapproval of the social evils like untouchability, dowry, and casteism. All the national festivals, including the Republic Day, Independence Day, Diwali, Christmas, Eid, are celebrated on a large scale to help the student understand and appreciate unity in the diversity of India. At Mehta Vidyalaya, international cultural exchange programs are taken over very actively. The focus of such program is on understanding the interdependence of nations and humanity as a whole, understanding the international cooperation in solving international economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian problems, developing a sense of world brotherhood beyond the narrow limits of nationalism. Various movies, documentaries are shown to students which help them to nurture the social skills and outlook to live in harmony. Various sessions on yoga, art of living, are organized for the students to develop a sense of peace within, or in other words, to develop their psycho-spiritual dimensions of peace. Environmental awareness programs are conducted in the school very regularly. Our students regularly visit the old age homes and orphanages to spend time with the aged and to help the destitute. In the end, I would like to conclude by saying that we are committed to promote the value-based approach to peace building, guided by the vision of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one family under God. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anju. Just for the benefit of the audience, Bharti Vidyavans is a unique set of schools in the country and abroad, as she said, and they are known for their value system and ethos that they have developed for several years. And my personal experience is that you can make out that this child is a Bharti Vidyavans. I also have seen a little bit of relaxation on my face, and I'm so relieved that my colleague Lata could make it. I was in. So I'm not saying that because I'm quite scared of mentioning that now. So Mr. Henry Sagar, please.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Ashok Pandey, for giving me this opportunity to be here in this August gathering. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here on this occasion of the Global Peace Leadership Conference. Before I venture upon the task of presenting my views on the agenda for this session, I acknowledge my indebtedness to all who have made this day one of erudition and inspiration. And after, I think, a triple dose of energy, you had your lunch, energetic, you heard Mrs. Wattle, the passion with which she spoke, and then Mrs. Anju Tandon. I think my views will be actually certain repetition of whatever has already been said. But still, whatever I have penned down, I like to say. It is indeed an honor to be in such an august company of some of the best minds in the country. I quote from the UN Declaration in paragraph. We live in one world. What we do affects others, and what others do affects us as never before. To recognize that we are all members of a world community and that we all have responsibilities to each other is not romantic rhetoric, but modern economic and social reality. So we all have to live together. We have to respect one another. And Mrs. Wattle mentioned love at the end of it. And that is, I think, the binding chain which each of us, if we hold that, I think the peace and harmony can be achieved very quickly. I salute you for this, because the way you mentioned it actually was so passionate that it touched me inside. It is a proud moment for me to have this opportunity to speak on the subject of moral and innovative leadership, which will contribute to world peace and harmony. In my view, it is the loss of traditional social structures, underdevelopment, and lack of opportunity and weakening of the family which has undermined the promise of youth as potentially the greatest resource for positive social change. You know, a lot of value systems were there in our joint families, where the child learned maybe 10% from the school, but 90% sitting in the lap of the grandfather or the grandmother. Now those social systems are breaking up. So that's why there is a lot of responsibility coming on schools. And these are the institutions which have to come forward and fill in even that gap, which I am talking about it in Indian context here. Addressing these challenges requires comprehensive engagement of government, civic and faith-based organizations and schools. Further, the global community faces many challenges today, such as religious extremism, political and economic instability, and violence. There are many divisions throughout the various sectors of society. Yet, what links the diversity of India with the larger world is a timeless and shared aspiration for global peace. I agree that today there is an unequivocal need for moral and innovative leadership to guide our community toward a state of peace and harmony. Leadership with expertise in a particular field is not enough to resolve the many complex social, political, economic and environmental challenges in our world today. Our time calls for leadership motivated by and exercising the value of living for the greater good. Our global community requires bold leadership that can find creative and innovative solutions to global issues and enable the human condition to advance and develop to a greater state of prosperity. In a message for 2014, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said that faith is an essential foundation of life for billions of people around the world. It provides strength in times of difficulty and an important sense of community. Despite the actions of extremists who justify violence in the name of religion, what the Secretary General called an affront to the heritage and teaching of all major religions, faith has been instrumental in promoting peace and social change. Movements such as the abolition of slavery in the 19th century and India's independence from British colonial rule and the US civil rights movement in the 20th century were advanced by faith leaders committed to non-violence and transcend spiritual values. Addressing the 2013 Global Peace Convention in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Global Peace Foundation Chairman Dr. Hyun Ji Moon called the possibility of global religious conflict one of the most pressing contemporary threats to peace. He noted how GPF project are bringing faith communities to work together to change attitudes and thus behaviors in order to solve social problems and resolve conflict. Education is the foundation of any lasting peace. It is the driving force behind freedom and tolerance. It stems the tide of ignorance and mutual misunderstanding, the means by which disagreement of all often degenerate into violence. Education fosters the culture of dialogue that is necessary to resolve conflicts. Here, the role of the school comes when we empower our children to express themselves. It can happen in schools through various clubs. It can happen in schools through the prefectorial boards, through the school appointments, that they learn how to talk to one another. If these young minds are empowered to speak out and to express themselves, I think they learn to respect the other's point of view also. And when they sit together and talk, I think any conflict can be managed. If we can train our children in that way in our schools, half of the battle is won. These are going to be, as Ashok said, 21st century citizens of tomorrow, and their training is happening in schools. And if today the school leader gives that power to our own children, that you come and run the school for me, you come express yourself, what do you want from your school? And if they start expressing themselves, they will definitely respect other point of view also. And I feel one of the greatest qualities which a school leader can have is to have faith on the children. This is, if we can have that, half of the thing is won. The defining challenge we are faced with is that the world we are living in today is alarmingly out of balance. This relates to the serious imbalance between people and nature as reflected in the concept of sustainable development itself. But maybe even more worrisome is the serious imbalance between people. For many, the last century brought unprecedented progress, prosperity, and freedom. For large groups, however, it marked an era of poverty, subjugation, and humiliation. These sharp imbalances and consequent feelings of injustice and inequality have fueled polarized perceptions, which in turn lead to violence and conflict. We need to urgently address both imbalances between the people and the planet Earth and between people. If we wish to give true meaning to sustainable development, and if we wish to create a new world free of terrorism, a world where people live in harmony between themselves and with the nature, that is what sustainable development is all about, to rebalance economy, society, and nature. Just now, Mrs. Anju Tandon spoke about so many environmental programs happening in our school. Same is the case with almost all NPSC schools. We treat it as our duty to make our children sensitive towards the environmental issues. And these imbalances between the man and the nature, man and the society, this can be filled in only in schools. I feel that is the time when the children are of that age where they are ready to listen and accept. Once we grow up, we have our own thinking, we have very, very rigid thoughts in our minds, and it is very difficult to change. But in schools, that is the impressionable age, and NPSC, National Progressive Schools Conference, whom we are all members, we believe that the education in a true sense happens outside the classroom scenario when the children are not with their books. It is mostly when they are participating in various activities which are being organized in school, whether it is an Environment Day celebration or any other important day celebration, that is when the true education is happening. Sustainable peace can only be meaningful with education. Education is the foundation of any lasting peace. It is the driving force behind freedom and tolerance. That is what I wanted to say. Peace for humankind remains the core tenet of all known world religions. Therefore, any teaching today that propagates the lie that destruction of precious human lives and prosperity in the name of God is a negation of such teaching. That is why all of us should rally not only against the distortion and misrepresentation of the true and sacred teaching of our great religious faiths, but also those behind the unfortunate distortion and misrepresentation. This is a sacred duty we collectively owe, not just to the religious faiths we profess, but to Almighty God. This should be the clarion call of our age. The time has come, I quote, to tear down the man-made walls of race, culture, religion and country and establish the peaceful, ideal world of God's cherished desire. As global citizens, let us make a solemn pledge to expand this dream to all people and lead the world to peace through the values of oneness and a vision of one world. In other words, humanity needs a vision that is more powerful than the forces driving us apart. A shared spiritual vision for humanity is the objective needed for these challenging times. Such a vision is found in the simple but profound ideas that all human beings everywhere, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, or religion, are part of human family. Political authority cannot mandate, nor can money buy the virtues needed to resolve conflicts and build ethical societies. We need a new framework rooted in our shared spiritual aspirations and principles that gives rise to the values needed to build peace. A moral and innovative leader has to look beyond individual concerns and promote what is good for larger society, nation, and eventually the world. Such a leader has to be guided by a vision of irrevocable universal values that could encompass the diversity of the human family. Such a leader has to have a large-heartedness to improve the human condition as well as creatively use available means to make this advancement possible. This is the innovative component of the leadership. As you all know, every culture has examples of extraordinary men and women who prepared humanity to forward in the field of philosophy, ethics and sciences, athletics and the cultural art by freely exercising their God-given talents even to the point of challenging existing paradigms. I will like to link it with the achievement of the children in our school. Any child coming to the school comes with a potential, and it is the school's duty to understand what that potential is and to bring it out. Once that potential, any area, whether it is art, whether it is music, whether it is dance, whether it is anything, once recognized, and if that child is given a chance to come forward and improve that potential, I think half of the battle is won. Somebody who has belief in himself, those who have trust in themselves, will naturally accept others also. That's why we say every child must participate in games and sports. This is because it is in the sports fields that they start respecting one another, and that is how they move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sehgal. And that is how true it is, in a very profound, convincing manner. One thing which should be a mantra for all educators is that we must have faith in our children, we must have faith in their potential, and once we have that, we must give them the opportunities to succeed, and once we give them opportunities, I think the conditions will grow around them, and they can perhaps create a wonderful world. So thank you very much, Mr. Sehgal. And now I have the honor to introduce Mrs. Lata Vaidyanathan. At the moment, she is director of Dairy Prakriti School in Gurgaon, but she is more renowned for her tenure with modern school, Bharat Ambarot. And I can tell you that when she was there, and even now, it is very difficult to get appointment with her. But somehow she agreed to come here, and I'm very grateful. And it is a huge injustice to a person of her stature and eminence to restrict her to 10 minutes time, but I think she will oblige us all by that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivji, for those wonderful words. My very esteemed colleagues on the desk, and I think even more esteemed people whom we hope will listen to us the way we have been introduced. I want to say something to you. Firstly, that the distance that I have traveled, and completely under unpredictable circumstances of both the traffic and very irritable road scenario that I managed to reach here at least on time to use the 5 minutes that you have so generously given me.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, 10 minutes. All right, you're timing it. All right. Therefore, I come with two things. I lost the peace on the roadside, waiting for the traffic to clear. So that briefly sums up, are we equipped to deal with situations which are not peaceful? And we are educators. Therefore, everything that we do for our children which leads them on to dealing with unpredictable circumstances is education. Predictable ones, you plan, execute, structure. But the ones that are unpredictable is really difficult. I lost my harmony when I was entering because the lack of peace when I was getting off the car made me lose these papers in the car. So I'm completely unarmed. And when I'm unarmed, I think I'm threatened with the prospect of saying exactly what that peace also means: disarming our countries, not preparing for war, not preparing for conflicts, while we all understand that peace is neither absence of war nor absence of conflict. Friends, just about last week, I was in this amazingly peaceful place in the presence of corporate people who are warring every day to raise their dividends, to raise their money bags, to compete in an international scenario. And we were celebrating the Gita Jayanti at the Chinmaya Ashram right here. And I happened to meet. So whatever I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes are stories which actually tells me how do I harmonize all that I know and people claim me for the 39 years in service and for the years of wonderful experience of who I am made by these children. I sometimes wonder that as I was sitting there, I heard some stories. Stories that I had not heard before. Are we preparing men, women for the future with the 21st century skills to be exactly that? Not in the way in which people did it, but something different. Whether we talk today of Malala, whether we talk of Satyarthi on their way to receive their Nobel Prize, or some quieter people. I met this gentleman called Ravi Jha, who was speaking. I was also one of the speakers. But listening to him, I really, really thought that we can be just very small fragments in an ocean of extraordinary service that people are doing. Here is a man who has cremated over 4,000 people in his arms. In the sense, he has taken people who are completely less privileged and he has taken them to the flames or to the burial ground, completely poor, on the roadside, of which 49s were either only heads or parts of the body. I wondered what could be the motivation. What could be the motivation to do such deeds? What transforms the human being? Is our education preparing us for certifications? Is the kind of rendering we do preparing us for citizenship? In fact, there was a very beautiful line in the note that you had sent to me, which said citizenship through oneness. And I was wondering, citizenship through oneness, and a lot of the previous speakers have spoken about the universality of education, about the various activities we do in education, the kind of schooling that we try to provide for our children, inside the classroom, outside the classroom, oneness with their nature, oneness with yourself, be it yoga or be it raising awareness debates, debating hundreds of issues that United Nations have and the kind of advice and the kind of readings and scriptures that we do from time to time. And clearly, I was just saying, once a Bhavanite, always a Bhavanite. When we talk of Ano Bhadra Kratu Yantu Vishwata, that noble thoughts come to us from all sides. Are we really impacted by the nobleness of the work that goes around us? Sometimes we get so locked in our day-to-day thoughts, and also while talking and thinking about the 21st century skills of creativity, problem solving, and so many such things, are we really losing track of how do we break the status quo, challenging the status quo, and saying that that this one earth is flat. This is one place where all of us have to live together in harmony, not only with people of our kinds or other kinds, but also with nature, where if we do not, smoke will rise to the topest stars to make sure that you are as unpeaceful as somebody right below there. So the concept of this oneness, on which I'll dwell for a minute, is about wanting and learning to live with all kinds of people, persons, situations, animate, inanimate, and living in that harmony which will make the difference. I want to take a very small model over the next minute and a half and talk about it. There are three major aspects to this model that I'm talking about, which is about citizenship. And I want to make a difference between civics and citizenship in the sense that is probably very important for students of today. One is the aspect of space. Is it regional or local? Is it national? Is it international? Let us look at then the dimensions which forms the other wing of this model, which is about social, political, economical, sociological, and also environmental. I will not dwell into each of these dimensions, which has been so beautifully elucidated by my previous speakers. But the third one, which is about the competencies, which can be cognitive in terms of just knowledge and skills that we're imparting. It could be more emotional responses as the second part of our competency. And third one, which can be how do we interact or react to all of this. And what is the level of action, interaction, and reaction, and how do we deal with this, and whether all of these have something to do with toning it down, not to react, but to respond. Because in response to all the dimensions that I've mentioned, and moving on from strictly local to international levels, how is this earth turning flat? How are our responses going to be? How is the future of this world going to judge us by the kind of responses we have to all these dimensions through all these spaces which are local or global? I think some of these will require deep thought from all of us, be it educators, be it students, be it young men and women today in the workforce, and a demography that we have today, which is to take some responsibility of what's going to happen in the world ahead of us. I think it's most important, therefore, friends, that the few moments we spend together while raising awareness and raising issues on what we mean by peace, what we mean by harmony, what are the various models that are taught to us over and over again, how do we evolve, how do we actually move away from goodness to greatness through disruptive innovations, what is it that's going to pile up as lessons for our future children? These are, I leave you with more questions, because once somebody said, the first time I taught my subject better. The second time I taught my subjects better. The third time I taught, I found a relationship between subject and my subjects. The fourth time I taught, I questioned this relationship. The fifth time I'm teaching, I have more questions than answers I can find. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lata.
Thank you.
Now, thank you very much for that also. And now you know, Lata, you have discovered one thing about you, how lethal you could be without arms. So you don't require arms to be armed. So thank you very much, my esteemed speakers. I know a very young scholar is sitting at the back. His name is Kumar Khadga. He spoke yesterday, and he was speaking in the session on the sources of conflict. And he was so passionate, after listening to him and since yesterday and the whole day, when I see him, I'm scared. You know why I'm scared of him? Because he said that the sources of all conflict are injustice. And why I'm scared? I have no reason to be scared of him, but I think all of us, in a way, somehow the meting out injustice to each other in one way or the other. I think this is a very valid confession that I'm making, and that is why I'm scared of it. Now, on the other hand, I am an educator, so are my panelists here. And somehow or the other, we have developed this conviction and faith that education is the answer to all the problems. And therefore, I'm just advancing an argument here that education is an answer to all the problems. So can education be an answer to at least one problem, that is injustice? And if injustice could be addressed, could we achieve peace? So I think Kumar Khatka will support me there. This link could be established. Right? And therefore, what we are doing at this point of time is that we have identified three very distinct areas that are troubling our education system. So one is that the education needs to expand. You heard Amita said 200 million children out of school. So that is the expansion has to be there. The second very serious problem that we are facing is inclusion. Now those who are out of the school, some of them may be out of the school because there is no access of schooling, but some of them could be also out because of what we call conspiracy of exclusion. And it's because of those reasons they are out. So we need to work on inclusion. So if expansion is achieved, inclusion is achieved, and then probably we cannot sit with ordinary methods, methodologies, and teachers and teaching. We also need to bring about quality. And hence, the road to peace, the foundation for that would be perhaps addressing these three needs of the society: inclusion, expansion, and quality. And as school leaders, we have to address that. And you saw 4 different points of view, 4 different points of efforts, and 4 different arguments that have been advanced here. And that is what, as educators, we are trying to do. We also heard that each child has immense potential. There's no doubt about that. And 2 very small anecdotes are coming to my mind, and I want to share it with you. One of the former chairperson, Professor Marshall Aker, some of the Indian delegates sitting here would have heard about him. And he was narrating his own story. He came from a very, very poor family. He could not complete his education beyond 8th or 9th or 10th class. And then he was sponsored by one of the organizations, and I'll tell you the name of that organization. And at the end, I'm just cutting it short, and I hope I'll be able to send my message across. And he says that in one of the finest world bodies situated in America, there is a book of celebrated achievers. And in that book, there are 2 Indians at the 6th and 7th places. At the 6th place is Mr. Marshall Aker, and at the 7th place is Ratan Tata. And Ratan Tata is the one who sponsored his education. Just imagine. So that is the power of inclusion, and that is the power of providing access to education. You know, right now since 2010, we are talking of inclusion in the private unaided schools. We call it popularly also as public schools. And then there is a lot of hue and cry. Some of us blame us, we blame somebody else. But you know, the crux of the story is a similar thing happened in 1947 in Ireland. Similar thing happened. The doors of some of the elite schools were not opened for a certain section of society and the children from there. And that school, first time there was a law in the Irish Parliament, and the access was allowed to them by an Act of Parliament in 1947. And the Irish government has produced a documentary only 2 months ago, and that documentary has documented the achievement of 7 living students of the first batch of that school. 7 of them are living. Out of those 7, 3 of them are the Nobel laureates. 7 of them. We will take 3 of them are the Nobel laureates, and the others are also not ordinary people, they are also great people. So Mr. Saigal was making the point, have faith in them. Give them access, give them opportunities, create conditions for their success. And I think if we successfully do this, I think we will be contributing to what we are. You know, it appears to us as if it is a mirage and it will never be achieved. So this is the point that I wanted to make at the end of it. And the last point is, of course, the needs of the children in the 21st century have changed. It has totally changed. The children today are different from what they were 10 years, 20 years ago. More number of children under the age of 13 are bringing laurels in terms of high level achievements than they did 20 years ago. More number of adolescents and adults under 25 are young achievers and innovators than they were before. You know this. You know how many CEOs in the world are under 26. There is a statistics available. So what defines 21st century is also, I'm very happy to say, are the roots of establishing peace. Somehow in the 20th century, we thought the best education is the one who creates absolute conditions for competitiveness. But 21st century says no. Convert it into collaboration. The 20th century defined that we have to be prima donnas. We have to work in solo. The modern 21st century says that we have to tell our children how to communicate with each other, how to live together, how to work in a team, how to learn each other's culture. Earlier we had to travel across 7 seas to reach somebody else. Today we don't have to do that. 10 people sitting in different parts of the world in their bedrooms are working together. They're working together. So they have to know each other. And that is why this concept of global peace in the context of globalization and multiculturalism and bringing that context to the schools that we are heading becomes absolutely important. So thank you very much for listening to us, listening to my panelists who are so great in their exposition. We have 5 minutes time left for some of the questions, and Lata has said that we want more questions, and I'm very scared of you as well, gentlemen. You ask very difficult questions. So please make it simple for us. We are very ordinary school teachers. So don't ask tough questions. Take mic there just behind you.
Everybody. So my question is especially to
Mrs. Amita Mother.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't.
She's the one who can answer it also.
So my question is, since we talked about, I would say, unemployment and lots of things, what I think is what really can kick off the economy is by initiating big projects. Just like what happened in the US, just like Facebook became the revolution. The company which just started 10 years ago became worth of $200 billion. Jack Ma just did the same thing. Why are we not able to do the thing? And my viewpoint is, and I want to ask the same thing to you, my viewpoint is, are we really able to inculcate the sense of independent thinking and ability to initiate, or are we really failing in that? And if someone is failing, either it is the society or it is the system of education. That's my question. Short and sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Suraj Bosman. You can search me on YouTube also, anybody if you want.
Suraj. Suraj?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Once again.
No, I couldn't.
No. People are so impressed with you, they want to know your name. Yeah, Suraj.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Suraj. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head. I'm sorry to use this violent term in a peace conference. But you're absolutely right, because I think we were all so involved with the colonial rule and the whole understanding of rote learning, which became integral to our private school systems. But today, I think more and more, over the last 5 to 10 years, would you agree with me, Mr. Sehgal, that schools are working very hard in order to bring about understanding of independent thinking, self-regulation, problem solving, conflict resolutions, the whole understanding of how we sort of deconstruct and look at the subtext and become independent in the way we think. In fact, that has been a great endeavor that we've tried out. Though we do see around us that willy-nilly, there is a certain mindset within us as Indians. Probably it's because we have issues about employment. Because we do have issues about employment, we do have issues about poverty, and everybody wants a job, so to speak. And because of that, only literacy and numeracy has taken the front row. But I think it's more and more people are trying very hard to go back to the idea, from the time of the Rig Veda, right up to what Tagore said, or Gandhi said, that we have to look at other issues which makes us independent thinkers, think out of the box, and so on. And I'm sure that we're not far, because there's so many Indians across the globe, and they're, in fact, Facebook and so many others have been run by Indians. So there's so much happening with Indians across the globe that I'm sure that we're getting there, and we'll soon take over the 21st century.
Thank you, Namita. Yeah. So one question from that side, or anyone, or if you have already decided that we deserve pardon, then it's okay.
Well, I would like to request that the kind of work we have started with you, can we start with them as well? And that can take a good shape as we've been talking.
Okay, so I'll give you their contacts.
Thank you.
And please contact them, and they will be able to do
I'll
it
go
much
and
better
start
way.
working
Yeah.
on it. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. So any other question? Yeah, sir. Yeah. Can you give the mic, please, all other ways, sir? You can speak in your very eloquent. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashok.
Yeah.
My name is Vikram Dutt, and I've been with education and especially inclusive education for many years. But I want to take off on what Amita just said. We have representatives here, Lataji's predecessor, Mr. Kapoor, my principal when I was in school, Mr. Deen Dayal, Amita's predecessor, Rajni Kumar. They all belonged, and Sehgal Saab's predecessor, Mr. Bhattacharya, who's probably principally responsible for the High Court verdict. And we went through schooling in the 60s, graduating in the late 60s and then on to university, where Amita, what you're talking about was encouraged. We are all products of that. Free, independent thinking. We were encouraged to ask questions, and we were encouraged to question not only the principals, I mean not only the teachers, but the principals, that why are you doing this? And in the public schools, there was a system, a prefectorial system, which encouraged students to be more creative. Who is Suraj? Because I had the back, I couldn't make it. You're Suraj. Maybe you are a product of an education system. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So now, the problem is that India is now moving back to a system where questioning is encouraged. Many years ago, I was a guest at Ashok's school, and so I'm now introducing Ashok's mentor, who's also been my mentor, Colonel Satsangi. These were educationists who taught you how to question. And so once we move back to that, we will move back to peace and harmony. Yes, there cannot be disarmament. I know there was a cheer when disarmament went out, because let us not forget that judo started because the Buddhist monks, the lamas, needed to protect themselves. Because if you are unprotected and you go out into the rain, you're going to get wet and get pneumonia and die. So we need that raincoat. We need people like General Sehgal, who participated in the 71 war. We need people like Captain Mullah. I don't think any of the youngsters here know about Captain Mullah or about General Cardozo, who wrote about Captain Mullah. So this individuality, well, the moment it returns to our education system, and we have 5 champions of that, and we'll be very keen to know about Teri Prakriti. What a beautiful name! So the point is, liberal education, the moment it comes back, and the best part is, Professor Mashelkar was talked about. I am involved with running an NGO. I know that Amita ji, Lakshmi ji, they all know about it. Lakshmi has a difficult name, therefore everybody is referred to as Sehgal, and everybody else by their first name.
That's the strategy we adopt. My compliments to you.
So, our students, we pick up girls from very, very poor homes. And we have produced IITians, IIMs, And our most outstanding success is a girl who's now in Cambridge doing a PhD in physics in rocket science. And she's on a Schlumberger Foundation, which is the female equivalent of a Rhodes Scholar. So there are pockets of excellence, and under Professor Verma's, I don't see Professor around. Now under Professor Verma's over-expanding thing with IAS, SE, looking into these things, I think the time has come when we will get into liberal education again, which is going to become the fountainhead of harmony. I don't know about peace, because there can be harmony in war too, as General will submit, as Captain Saab has shown through his bravery. My eldest brother also in the 48 war and in the Second World War won high honors. They've all shown harmony even during war. And that, as Lataji so beautifully said, harmony is about being able to capture peace within you in very difficult situations. And these 5 leaders of our education system have shown us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I think Mukesh wants to make a point. Yeah.
I was a student of Vidya Bhavan, Bharati Vivek.
Oh, it's obvious.
Yeah. I am so touched because
Didn't I say that we can make out?
Yeah. I just want to propose something that in these 5 schools, can we have peace and harmony lectures once a month?
Why not?
Because
We do have it. We do
we
have
have
it.
it professionally done.
We have it, and then we can do it.
We will do it, and
Under
it's
your
there are very popular
structure.
shows,
Yeah.
and then we at no cost to you. It will sponsor. So we would like to take these 5 schools.
Hospitality will be ours.
Yeah. But we'll make it an ongoing thing. It should not be that once a year. We'll make it. When you come next year,
We
we'll have it.
chalk out the
Yeah. So we can talk it out.
Yeah.
Let these 5 schools be the model schools.
Oh, we'll do
Happening.
it. Amita is here.
Let it go. Let it go all over the
Go
country.
to all these schools.
But and one more thing. I like to get somebody prominent from the media,
Okay.
like Bakar, to get involved, NDTV or somebody involved, so that these talks are even on the media. That's very important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So that is, the power, the stakeholders in a school system. We talk about students, teachers, parents, management committee, but there is another pillar of, and that is the alumni. So this is the power of alumni which will come back to us. Thank you, Mukesh. So I think we are completely out of time, so you come here, so that you are under threat to complete it within 1 minute.
The best thing that could have happened is the Threat of Peace conference. We've been working with schools in Bangalore. I've come all the way from Bangalore, so I think I deserve a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. We've been working with schools. I'm Sujat Lalwani. I am a motivational speaker. I'm a trainer in Bangalore. So I work with about 10 schools in Bangalore. And we've been working with about 500 students. And we've been doing this concept of giving them 10 weeks of different kind of tasks. Each week it's a different task. One week they work with the environment, 1 week they work on bees. 1 week students from high school go down to the primary schools and they give coaching. So the whole concept is you teach not when you become a teacher, but you teach when you know something which someone else doesn't know. So you have something to pass on, right? The only second thing. Yes, I'll conclude. So I request all the panelists here, if we could have, I was most excited with the PT period which we had, but I would be more excited if all the schools had something called PT, that's practical task every week to take away, and assessment could happen based on that for all the high school kids. 36 weeks of tasks every year, I think it will integrate a lot of education, which you said happens on the environment day, sports day. Why not have it 36 weeks throughout the year? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Just I'll take 1 second more. The Terry Prakriti School website is on, and there are 3 verticals which we thought was very important. One is on sustainability, which on a curriculum on which we are working. So regular CBSE school with 3 verticals. The second one is on community outreach, which is completely like 36 weeks. We have calculated something like 28 weeks, proper one. And the third one is on universal values, which are being linked. So there is a little bit of peace and harmony which we are.
Thank you. thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been very encouraging in your company. And of course, in return, I can only offer you a cup of tea and only 15 minutes. So I have changed my role once again, as you see. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And if we can have a photograph of Malika sir. Yeah, you have to support me. Professor Verma. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Right to enlightenment.